All right, we're going to resume with our hearing in this case. The court is calling 2017 CR 7952, State of Texas versus Cameron Keith Scott. Can I have parties announced for the record, please, for the state?
Joe Ray Garcia for the state.
For the defense?
On behalf of Mr. Cameron Scott.
And where we left, are both sides ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. I do believe that there may be a witness or potential witness for the defense that is in the courtroom that may need to be put into a breakout room.
All right. Is there a witness here for the defense? Would that be the person, Monte, who was signing it? He is
Correct,
not listed on the screen. I believe he logged out, but hopefully he'll log back in. If he doesn't, you can give him another phone call at a break.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Where we left off was on cross-examination with Detective Edwards. Detective Edwards, you're still under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
Defense?
Okay. Good afternoon, Detective Edwards. So I believe where we left off yesterday was requesting or asking if you had a report, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and since then we have now been supplied with your supplemental report. And do you have that report in front of you by any chance?
I do not.
Okay.
All right.
You-
Here's the question, because I know we're on Zoom and things are handled differently. Mr. Edwards, do you have access to an email?
I can pull it up right now if you need me to. I just didn't know if it was appropriate to have it with me or not.
No problem.
you can.
Defense, are you requesting that he pull up his report?
Yes, Detective Edwards, just in case, that way if you need to refresh your memory, because I know it's been some time. And of course, as a state instructed, you just don't read from it at this point, but you can refer back to it if you have any questions.
All right, defense, you can ask your question.
Okay. Detective Edwards, so when you were dispatched for burglary in progress, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went out to the address listed on your report of 4951 Woodstone, apartment 915,
Yes.
you and the other officer knocked on the door, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, did you hear anything coming from inside of the home?
No.
Okay. And do you happen to know how long after you were dispatched to the location you arrived the first time?
Can you please repeat that again?
When you received the call out to that location, how long after did you actually arrive at the location?
I was right there on the other side of I-10. I probably got there within 5 minutes, approximately, something like that.
And about how long did you and the other officer remain at the location that first time you went out there?
We walked around both sides of the apartment complex. We knocked on the door, then we got with dispatch to do a call back to the location. Then we kind of went around the corner and kind of talked to ourselves about kind of the situation, and we were waiting for dispatch to get back with us.
Okay, and then on your report, I believe, or let me ask you this. How long after did dispatch get back with you?
They got back with me pretty quick.
Okay, when you say pretty quick, 5 minutes?
I mean, less, probably about 3 minutes.
Okay,
They originally said that the call came maybe on the east side and they were checking the location. And that's what we were kind of communicating about. We were thinking, well, maybe this occurred on the east side. And then that's when dispatch got back with us that they listened to the 911 tapes, and that was the address that was given over the phone. So that's why when on the video you see me driving back up.
okay. And so during that time when you were there and you were waiting for dispatch to get back to you, you heard nothing, correct?
No, we had knocked on the door. We were probably there 30 seconds to a minute. And then that's when we left and we checked with dispatch.
Okay. But during that time, you heard nothing in the I guess the surrounding area, correct?
I did not hear anything the time that I was in front of the apartment, no.
And you didn't observe anybody come out of the home, correct?
No, the lights were off.
Okay. It wasn't until you and the other officer go back. Do you hear anything upon approaching the door?
Upon approaching, we went to the neighbor. I was going to check on the neighbor to see if they had heard anything. And when I knocked on the neighbor's door, or when I was approaching the neighbor's door, is when I heard the screaming.
Okay, so you knocked on the neighbor's door, correct? And then you heard the screaming.
I'm not sure if I knocked on, I'm trying to remember if I knocked on a door or not. I know we watched the camera yesterday. I don't remember if I knocked on the door or if it was after I knocked on the door.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and refer back to your report in the middle of the report, I believe it should clarify it there, be able to refresh your memory.
Yeah, it says when I was approaching the door, I heard arguing.
And maybe you're not looking in the space that I'm looking at. So it says I knocked on the neighbor's door, right? And
Yes.
then, okay. So you agree with me that at that time on your report, you indicate that you knocked on the door, then heard screaming, correct?
And knocked on the neighbor's door. I knocked on the neighbor's door and then heard screaming. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And so yesterday you testified that when the state asked you if the person was screaming, come in, you said no, they were screaming help. But yesterday when we actually heard the video, wasn't it that the person was screaming, come in?
I couldn't make out, and I don't remember exactly what was heard. I just remember hearing screams, that maybe she was in distress or, that assault may have been occurring inside.
Okay. And you testified yesterday that there was nothing to indicate that a burglary had taken place as far as tampering with the door, a broken window, broken door, correct?
Yes, I didn't see any forced entry.
Okay, forced entry, I'm sorry. And so when you walk in, and I think we all saw in the video yesterday, you walk in and immediately my client, he has his hands up, correct?
Yes, he's over in the kitchen with the victim, yes.
Okay. And the alleged victim, she's standing there with the baby in her arms, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, do you see any injury on this victim?
I just noticed that her shirt was ripped, but
Okay.
I didn't have enough time to sit there and look at injuries.
Do you see, okay, so when I say not examine for injuries, but you've seen somebody that has blood coming down their face, their head, correct, before?
It's kind of hard when the situation is not really at her at that moment. It's at him, and I'm giving him commands and he's coming at me. So,
And that's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, did you or did you not see blood or any other injury coming from the victim?
No, I did not see blood coming from the
Did you?
victim.
Okay, did you see any injury or blood coming from my client?
No,
Okay. And at that point in time, did my client come towards you
yes.
in any fashion?
Yes,
He did?
Yes.
Should we pull up the video again to make sure about that?
yes, he came at me, yes. You can
Okay.
pull it up.
Your Honor, do we have, and I'm not sure if the state has their exhibit 3A and B accessible for the court to pull up?
Yes, the court can pull it up, or either the state can pull it up.
Whichever.
Which,
I believe
I
it
can
was
do it if you
3,
like.
whichever. I believe that it was 3B, if I'm correct.
Okay. Would you like me to share screen?
yes. And
And we
make
can-
sure you share the sound on that. If not, I'll do it from my end.
Okay. The share sound is checked.
Okay.
And this is 3B. Paula, I can go at your
Yeah,
direction.
this is where they actually make entry into the apartment, correct? I just want to make sure I was correct on
Yes,
that.
it is.
Okay, yes, you can play that.
Okay.
And you can fast forward it to the point in which they actually are entering the apartment.
I believe it's right here. I can, or if not, just tell me when.
Okay.
I kind of just tried to guess.
Want to break it? Go for it. 340. We're trying to make entry into the apartment. 335. We're making entry. Trying to kick open the door.
Okay, can you pause it for a moment? Some reason your screen is very choppy.
Judge, yeah, I was just want me to, it might help if I don't put it in full screen like that. I'm not sure. But
If you want, I can do it from my end.
either one, just let me know if this one's okay, then
Okay.
I can keep going, or if not.
All right, defense.
Yes, Judge, I'm mainly for the purpose of the defendant's actions when they first enter.
No, the question is, do you want
Oh.
me to share the screen, or is this too choppy?
It is a little choppy, like yesterday, so I think it was better when the court was
All right.
in control of the screen.
All right, Mr. Garcia, if you'll stop sharing your screen and let me go to mine, just everyone give me a moment, please.
And Judge, it might help if it's not in full screen.
All right.
That makes it a little laggy.
Okay. And you're requesting 3B?
Correct, Judge.
Just one moment. All right, Joe Ray, you need to close your video before I can open mine on your system.
That's odd. This one's saved on my computer. Okay,
Okay.
it's closed, Judge.
All right, thank you, because it won't let me open because it shows that it's being in use elsewhere.
Wow. Okay.
And Judge, I apologize. In the meantime, I can
No,
Obtain the-
no. Let's just, we're going to play this video
okay.
at your request, okay? Just give me one moment. Is everyone able to hear?
Yes, I can hear.
All right, and is everyone able to see?
Yes, Judge.
Wanna break it? Go for it. 340. We're trying to make entry into the apartment. 335. We're making entry. Trying to kick open the door. Break the window. You need to, yeah. Say it's on the police. Get down on the ground.
I'm not getting on the
Get
ground.
down on the ground.
I've been
Get
saying
down on the
nothing.
ground.
I've been saying nothing. I've been saying nothing. Tell them the truth. Get down.
Judge, and that's where we can, unless the court feels they need to play the rest of it, that's where I was just wanting to stop it right there.
Get off of me. I haven't did anything. Get off of me. I haven't did anything. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. No. No. Get down. No.
Okay, Officer Edwards, so
Yes.
in that video, do you agree with me that Mr. Scott was not approaching you? You were coming in?
I do not. He
Okay.
was clearly taking steps towards me.
Okay, can you refer back to your report in the middle of the report where it says, I saw P2, which is Mr. Scott, right? Or do you see where I'm referring to?
I saw P2
Standing in the kitchen? Do you agree
Yes.
with me that your report at the time states that immediately after you indicate that you went inside with your weapon drawn, you see him standing in the kitchen, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Nothing indicates that he charged towards you, correct?
I never said he charged toward me.
Well, nothing indicates that he ever walked towards you, correct?
In my report,
That's what I'm referring to. I'm referring specifically to that exact sentence where I went inside first with my weapon drawn. Do you see where I'm referring to? It's in the middle of that paragraph.
yes,
And it says you saw him standing in the kitchen, correct?
yes,
Okay. And you ordered him to get on the ground.
yes,
Okay. Now, again, I asked you, his hands were up, correct?
yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, Mr. Scott didn't know why you were there, correct?
I don't know what he's thinking. I can't
Okay.
relate to that.
Is it fair to believe that he did not know that you were there,
Objection,
or why you were
speculation.
there?
No.
Judge, I believe you're muted.
That will be sustained.
And as we just saw in the video, Mr. Scott continued to say, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, right?
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, was the victim yelling at Mr. Scott? Was she yelling stop towards you guys? I mean, who was she yelling at?
I don't know who she was yelling at.
Okay, but she was yelling, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the camera doesn't allow us to see this because, of course, I know that you said your camera fell off. But
No, I never said my camera fell off.
oh, I'm sorry, your camera stopped, right?
Yes.
Okay. But at no time does he use any type of force towards you or the other officer, correct?
No, like I said yesterday, it was all passive resistance.
Okay. And did he know that he was being under arrest, or did you give him notice, hey, you're under arrest for this offense at that time?
At that time, he wasn't under arrest.
Okay.
We
So
just
at that
were-
time, were you conducting a search?
All right, so this is what I'm going to remind everyone. Brenda can only take down one person at a time. So if everyone will please remember, ask a question, the detective answer it, but don't talk over each other. If you all can remember to do that, that would help Brenda out.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you can ask your next question, Ms. Perez.
Officer Edwards, were you conducting a search at that time?
No,
And were you conducting or trying to transport him at that time?
no,
Okay. At that point, you really didn't know what either party's relation was to each other, correct?
yes,
You didn't know whether the victim had assaulted my client, correct?
no,
You went in there, typical procedure in an emergency situation, and just immediately detained my client or attempted to detain.
no.
So when walking through the door, were you ordering both him and the victim to get down?
No, she's screaming for help. She's screaming, come in. She's screaming. So I'm gonna take action as I see necessary at that time. I'm still trying to figure things out, but the way that everything occurred at that time, I was to believe that she was the victim and that she was assaulted by the
All
man.
right, I'm sorry for interrupting, just a moment. Mr. Scott, stop shaking your head. Stop making all of these motions. If your attorney wants to call you as a witness, your attorney will call you as a witness. Do you understand?
Ma'am.
All right, defense, continue, please.
So Officer Edwards,
I'm sorry, it's detective.
I'm sorry, Detective, I apologize, Detective Edwards. During that time when there is a point that you determine that the victim is the lady that's screaming, do you ever look around in the room to see, hey, is there somebody else that is in this room? Or do you just immediately see my client when you walk in and go towards him?
I see him and her in the kitchen, and that's all I see.
But he's not holding her, correct? In the sense of restraining her in any form?
When I walk in, no,
Okay, he doesn't have a weapon, correct?
he does not. In
Okay,
his hands are up.
his hands are up, and he doesn't seem to be using any force towards her or yelling at her, correct?
No,
Okay. And so is it fair to say that he didn't know why you were there or that you were even there for him?
Sustained. And Mr. Garcia, I'm going to need you to speak up because I think your microphone is not on high. His objection was speculation.
Okay.
Okay,
and the court is sustaining that objection.
okay, Judge. So back to what you agreed no force was used, and you agreed that you weren't arresting him, searching him, or transporting him at the time, correct? And you
Yes.
said and you also said that you were not even detaining him at that time, correct?
No, we were detaining him.
Okay. And at any point during that encounter, did you ever explain to him why?
Why what?
You were detaining him?
No, we were just giving him commands to detain him, and he was resisting.
And he continued to say, I'm not resisting, correct?
He kept saying, I didn't do it.
And he also stated that he's not resisting, correct?
He might have said that, I don't know, but I mean, clearly he was.
Well, officer, I know that that's your opinion because that's why we're part of why we're here today. But what I'm asking you, detective, what I'm asking you is what we all watched again for the second time on this video. Do we need to watch it again?
I don't remember him saying, all I remember him saying is, I didn't do it.
Okay.
I mean, he might have said, I'm not resisting, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, State.
Brief redirect, Your Honor. And just for purposes of the Zoom, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes. Hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Detective Edwards, I just have a few questions. You mentioned the term passive resistance. Can you please tell the court what that means to you?
Passive resistance, he's not hitting. He's not hitting us. He is just not cooperating with what we ask him to do. When I ask somebody, to put their hands behind their back and they're kind of pulling away, that's a passive resistance.
And was the defendant, as you say, passively resisting?
Yes, he was not following our commands at all.
And as a detective, with your experience, is this an offense of resisting arrest or detention?
Objection leading.
That would be sustained.
Officer, when this was happening, in your experience, was an offense happening?
At that time, we were just trying to figure out what was happening. We were trying to resolve the situation at hand. We have a female screaming come in. We have a female screaming. He's in the kitchen standing by her. I don't see anyone else. I ask him to get down on the ground. He refuses. I ask him to put his hands behind his back several times. He refuses. We had to tase him, and we had to get 3 officers to detain him and handcuff him.
And when you say he was standing by her, are you referring to the female, the complainant?
Yes, and while we were trying to detain him and handcuff him, the whole time he was trying to get back at her in the kitchen.
And while he was trying to get back at her, she's holding a child, is that right?
Objection leading.
That would be sustained.
Is the complainant holding anyone in the video that we just watched?
Yes,
Who is she holding?
an infant.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense.
Officer, you just testified that you didn't observe an offense of any sort happening. You were just investigating, correct?
Yes, and it's detective, Ms. Perez.
Detective, I apologize. Detective. And my client was standing by the victim, correct?
Yes,
And detective, again, you already confirmed that my client's hands were up. In
Yes.
your professional opinion and experience, somebody's hands going up, or even if you weren't a professional, watching a typical movie where somebody is with their hands up in reaction to the police, would you not say that, or do you not agree with me that would be complying with the officer and their commands?
If we're telling him to put his hands up, yes.
Would you or would you not agree that putting your hands up is a reaction or a response, physically stating that you are surrendering in some sort of form?
To me, hands up means I don't have any weapons. I'm not hiding anything.
When you entered the location, you stated hands up or yelled hands up, correct, detective?
Possibly, yes. Probably. That's normally what I do.
And as we saw in the video, my client followed your instructions, correct?
Those instructions, yes.
Okay. And are you trained in the academy and I'm not sure, potentially after, to de-escalate situations?
We have been trained over the course of 18 years. I've been trained in de-escalation, yes.
Okay. Do you believe that you attempted to de-escalate the situation on that evening or that day?
I don't think there really was any de-escalation that we could do at that time.
Okay.
There wasn't really any talking. When you come into a situation like that where it's a felony.
And detective, that's all? I didn't need you to go and elaborate on that. So let me ask you my next question. You stated that he continued to try to get back at her.
Yes.
But we don't see that on your video in any form, correct? Would you agree with me on that?
I would not. I think you can clearly see that.
Could you tell me where on the video you saw that?
Well, when he approaches me, we're not in the kitchen anymore. How does he get back to the kitchen if he doesn't try and get back at her?
So let me ask you this. When you are alleging that my client is resisting arrest and you're moving around, or not even my client, but in any situation when you're trying to do any sort of detaining of an individual, and there's multiple officers, and is it fair to say that you don't stand in the same place at the same time?
If they don't resist, yes.
Okay.
If they don't try and get back to a victim, yes.
Okay. And so you're telling us and telling the court that we should see that on the video, him trying to get back to the victim.
You can see him going back towards the kitchen.
That's not my question. My question was, are you telling myself, everybody else in this courtroom, as well as the court, that you can see that on the video?
You can see him going back to the kitchen, yes. From the
Okay.
victim.
No further questions, Judge.
Anything else from the state for the witness?
No, Your Honor. May this witness be excused?
Defense?
Yes, Judge, if he can be excused. Detective
All right.
Edward.
All right, Detective Edwards, your excuse. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, ma'am.
State, call your next witness.
The state calls Officer Diaz.
All right, Officer Diaz is in breakout room number 1. Defense, do you have any objections to the state going to breakout room number 1?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Garcia, if you go to breakout room number 1 and have Detective Diaz come to the main room, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, could you please unmute yourself? Could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
All right, you can lower your hand, and if you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is James Diaz.
All right, state.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes.
Officer Diaz, is it officer or detective?
Officer.
Thank you. Officer Diaz, can you please tell the court what you do for a living?
I'm a patrolman with San Antonio Police Department.
And are you, how long have you been with SAPD?
I've been with SAPD almost 2 years.
In further 2 years, what are your current duties as an officer?
These are to respond to calls, be on patrol, apprehend suspects.
Okay, and were you on duty on the night of November 23rd, 2020?
Yes,
And on that night, were you involved in an incident with a male named Cameron Scott?
yes,
And is he on the Zoom screen today?
yes.
Can you please identify him by an article of clothing?
He's wearing a gray shirt with white Nike letters.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant. Now, Officer Diaz, let's go step by step on how you were involved with the defendant in this hearing. When did you first become aware or be involved with this incident?
So I first became aware when I was dispatched to the call. It's the apartment complex on Woodstone. And I was dispatched for a burglary in progress. You want me to go in full detail about the call?
All right,
That's
just
fine.
1 second. Officer Diaz, the court reporter is having problems hearing you. So if you could speak up for us, please, that would help her.
Okay, sure. So I was dispatched to a burglary in progress at the Woodstone, an apartment complex on Woodstone. That call came in, burglary in progress. I believe it was secondhand information, and the caller was saying that her friend's boyfriend had kicked in the door at the apartment, and that's the call I responded to.
Okay, and those apartment complexes you mentioned, is that in Bexar County?
Yes.
And when you first responded to the call-in, did you check the apartments?
When I first responded to the call, I did not check the apartments. I was third to arrive behind Detective Flores and Detective Edwards. By the time I got there, Detective Flores and Detective Edwards advised me that they had gone to the apartment we were dispatched to. So they knocked.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay. I'm sorry,
they-
let me ask a question. So when you were third there to arrive, as you said, what did you do per your investigation?
Well, I didn't initially make contact at the apartment because Detective Flores and Detective Edwards advised they knocked. There was no answer at the door. There was no damage to the door indicating the door had been broken in or anybody had kicked it down. So Detective Flores and Edwards left the apartment, walked back to their cars, and that's when I made contact with Detective Flores and Detective Edwards once they had already left the apartment. So initially, when I first got there, I didn't go to the apartment at all.
And after that happened, what did you do? Did you walk the premises and investigate?
Well, we had our dispatchers confirm that the address we were dispatched to was the address that the caller had given, because the caller was, like I said, it was secondhand info, and the caller was calling from the east side. Once the dispatchers and the dispatch supervisors confirmed that the apartment we were dispatched to was the apartment and the correct address that the caller had given, Detective Edwards and I made our way back to the apartment to knock on the door and check on anybody inside.
Okay, so let's start off there. Once you got to that door, what did you observe?
Now, when Detective Edwards and I approached the door, Detective Flores had already left the location, and I believe he was on his way back. But when I approached the apartment, I could hear some arguing inside. Somebody trying to hush another person. When I approached the door, I knocked. When I knocked, that's when I heard a female screaming for help and for us to come in. I believe I announced myself that we were the police department knocking, and nobody was answering the door, so I forced entry, broke a window, and unlocked the door to the apartment.
Okay, so did you believe there was a emergency?
I believe there was, due to call we were dispatched to being a burglary in progress, and then once I approached the door, I could hear screaming. So I believe there was an emergency inside.
And officer, let me ask you, during this time, did you have an active body worn camera on?
It was not on. Not on when I approached the door, no.
Okay, is there a reason for that, or you just didn't have it on?
So I turned it on when I was responding to the call. Then once Detective Edwards and Detective Flores advised that there was no answer at the door and they were going to leave the apartment complex, I turned off my camera. And I did not turn it back on when Detective Edwards and I went back to the apartment.
Okay, so let's move forward to where you left off. You forced entry into the apartment. What happened? What did you observe?
I observed the defendant and his ex-girlfriend. They were standing at the back of the apartment. She was holding a baby. Detective Edwards and I gave the defendant orders to get on the ground, and first thing he said was, "I'm not getting on the ground." Detective Edwards and I holstered our weapons and attempted to apprehend the defendant.
And why did you ask the defendant to get on the ground?
Due to the nature of the call, it's a burglary in progress. Well, we believed it was a burglary in progress, and to hearing the female screaming for help.
Okay, and as he wasn't obeying that command to get on the ground,
Objection, narrative.
Overrule.
what did you do after that?
Detective Edwards and I went hands-on with the defendant, trying to place his hands behind his back to get him in handcuffs. He wasn't complying. He wasn't putting his hands behind his back, kind of pushing back against us, wasn't getting on the ground. And so I unholstered my taser and I drive stunned the defendant once. He fell to the ground. Still wasn't complying with our commands to get his hands behind his back so we could get him in handcuffs. And so I drive stunned him a second time, and we were able to get both of his hands behind his back and into handcuffs.
Once he was in handcuffs, was he taken anywhere, or what did you do?
We had him on the ground for a second, and then we took him to our patrol car. He was placed in the back of one of the patrol cars there.
And during this time, did you have a body cam an active body cam?
I turned my body camera on once we got him the back of the patrol car when I realized it was turned off.
And once he was in the back of the patrol car, what happened with your investigation? Did you continue or did it end? What happened?
Once he was in the patrol car, the VMS came out to check on the defendant. CSI came out to take pictures. I talked to the sergeant. The defendant's girlfriend had spoken to Detective Flores about what was going on in the apartment prior to our arrival. When she was done talking to Detective Flores, I spoke to her again, and she gave me a different story than what she told Detective Flores. She said that the defendant had, it's not on my report, so my details might be a little off, but she said the defendant grabbed her.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
I keep going.
No, so just to go back a little bit, before all this happened, you stated you had an active body cam
At one point, yes.
before you questioned the complainant?
Before I questioned the complaint, it should have been turned on as I was questioning the complainant.
Your Honor, permission to share screen?
Yes, is this for exhibit?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
And which exhibit would this be?
This would be for exhibits, State's Exhibit 4A and State's Exhibit 4B.
Defense, have you had a chance to review State's Exhibits 4A and 4B?
I have not, Judge. We just went up to 3B yesterday.
All right, I'll send Mr. Garcia, if you go to breakout room number 1, and Ms. Perez, if you could go to breakout room number 1 and review State's exhibits, please. All right. We're back on the record. Defense, did you have a chance to review state's exhibits?
Yes, Your Honor. And I
All
just
right.
want to confirm for the record that the state has a specific portion in which they're playing of this video.
Well, State, are you seeking to admit these into evidence?
Yes, Judge, but for the interest of time, I'm just going to play a certain portion for the,
All right. Is there going to be an objection to state's exhibits? What two exhibits are you seeking to admit?
State's Exhibit 4A and State's Exhibit 4B.
All right. Is there any objection to state admitting that, or do you want the state to lay the foundation?
Your Honor, I'd like that for them to lay the foundation. And then I will make my, I guess, objection after that.
All right, state, it's your witness. You may proceed.
Ms. Officer Diaz, we were discussing your body worn camera. So that night, you stated that you had a body worn camera on.
Correct.
May I share my screen, Judge?
Yes.
Officer Diaz, I'm showing you what has been pre-marked as folder Diaz. Do you recognize this folder?
Yes.
And how do you recognize it?
Shown it to me before.
What is contained in this folder?
These should be the 2 body cam recordings that I have from the incident.
And have you seen these body worn cameras that you wore on the night of the incident?
Yes,
And to your knowledge, have they been altered in any way?
not to my knowledge.
And is it a true and accurate depiction or video of what happened on that night?
Yes,
Your Honor, at this moment, the state offers State's Exhibit 4A and State's Exhibit 4B into evidence.
Defense?
Judge, I'm going to object on the fact that the proper foundation was not laid and that the officer, the only way that he can identify this folder or these videos is because the state has shown them to him. In addition, it's not a true and accurate depiction of that evening because, as officer has already testified, he didn't have his body cam on the entire time. He turned it on after this alleged incident where my client was so-called resisting. So I don't believe I don't believe that the foundation was laid, nor, of course, like the true and accurate part of it is incorrect.
All right, State's Exhibit 4A and 4B will be admitted into evidence.
And Your Honor, may I present State's Exhibit 4B? And we might want to do it through the court so we can have a more
All
clear.
right, if you'll stop share of your screen. And you want to play 4B?
Yes, Your Honor. Starting at 23 minutes.
You need to close all of your screen because it won't allow me to close. It won't allow me to play it if you have any part of yours open.
I closed everything out, Judge.
All right, and also close the video.
I did.
Okay. Just one moment, Mr. Keno. If you go to breakout room number 1, and Ms. Ferguson, if you'll go to 1 and find out the reason for Mr. Keno's appearance, please.
Thanks, Judge.
You're welcome. All right, Mr. Garcia,
Yes, Judge.
it's still showing that
Let
the
me
file is open on your end.
reopen it and then I'll reclose it and we'll see if that works.
All right, thank you.
Okay, how about now?
All right, let's see. I think it's going to have to play from your end because it won't allow from my computer. Just one moment, let me see. Yes, it'll have to be from you because it won't allow it to play from my end.
Okay. May I share screen again?
Yes. And if you can make sure to do share audio on your end as well.
Yes. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Officer Diaz, before I present State's Exhibit 4B, did you have your body-worn camera on when you investigated and spoke with the complainant in this case?
Yes.
And for the record, I'm starting the video at 22 minutes and 58 seconds.
You're the one that called, man? You're the one that called?
Yeah.
Could I get your name?
My name?
Mm-hmm. What's today? The 23rd. Alright. What's your first name?
Elia, E-L-A-A.
E-L. And your last name?
Alvarado.
All right, State, you need to turn up the volume on your end.
Birth?
7196.
7196.
Judge, everything's on 100.
All right.
Sorry.
And a good phone number?
210-294-1416.
And an address.
4238 Family Tree. I don't know, but they went over there, but my mom, like, she answered the door, so I had to say that it wasn't me because,
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah, that's
like-
where
no, it's
your
whatever.
phone number came back to.
yeah.
So we were here the first time, nobody answered. And then your phone number came back to that east side address, so they sent people out there and then we came
I
back
called
over.
and I didn't say anything, put on mute, so, like, you know, maybe they'd come, and they didn't, that's why I texted her, because if you heard me on the phone saying the cops come, that's when he would start, like, really.
Who did you call?
I called 911 and put me on mute. And since they just hung up, I hung up when he started banging the doors, and I threw my phone under the bed so he wouldn't see. And then when he went left to go get the knife to open the door, that's when I texted her and I said, call 911. And she called, and she's like, okay, I called.
I'm stopping the video at 24 minutes and 43 seconds. Officer Diaz, she is light spoken, but do you recall who the person is on the video in the black and white hoodie?
Yes.
And who is that?
I don't remember her name and I couldn't make it out on the video, but she's the person who called for the complainant from the east side.
And do you remember why she's the person that called for this incident?
Yeah, because the complainant called her asking to call
Judge, can you-
911.
Hearsay, this
The
witness,
same.
okay.
And I'm sorry, Judge, I didn't hear the objection or the ruling?
She objected to hearsay, and I sustained it.
Okay, thank you. So after talking to these two women, what did you find out?
Found out that the caller had called for the complainant.
Objection, hearsay. If he's, Your Honor, he may have not.
That'll be overruled. I'll hear the answer, and then if you want to make an objection to the answer, but the question doesn't call for hearsay.
Judge, I think the question of the state was, what did you learn from these two individuals, one of which is not here in the courtroom, and we cannot cross-examine her regarding any of what she said. So
State asked your question, and then defense, you can make whatever objection you want to make, and the court will make its ruling.
Yes, Judge. Officer Diaz, and we'll continue the video in a little bit. After your investigation, what did you learn happened in this incident?
I learned that the defendant was staying with the complainant. The complainant said that at one point the defendant had grabbed her by the hair, I believe it was in the parking lot, and had taken her back inside the apartment. And
objection, Your Honor. He's testifying to what has not been admitted into evidence at this point, or what we've not seen, nor is on his report.
So what is your legal objection?
So objection, hearsay, based
That'll be
upon.
sustained.
Officer, for the record, I'm going to continue the video at 24 minutes, 43 seconds.
And I said, keep calling because they're not answering. And then that's when y'all finally came, but he wasn't letting me answer the door. And then they went to go knock on the house, and my mom, like, what did she say? She was just scared. She was like, what's going on? And I'm just like, what'd you tell me? I didn't say nothing because they said they were like, do you know from this city? And I was like, no. And I was like, no. But they meant Felicia, I guess. But I just had to say no. Like,
Okay. You said you put your phone on mute?
yeah, I called once. Let me see what time.
No, so that's why they hung up.
Yeah, I called
guess
at 10:45, and I stayed on for 11 seconds.
You called when?
At 10:45.
Okay.
But I texted her to call them, and it was at 10:47. For 11 minutes.
Okay. Did somebody already get your information?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the zip code for the family tree address?
78222. Yeah, he's standing out there. What is he doing? They're trying to get inside of the store.
Oh, EMS is checking them out.
Because he got paid. They paid for him. He's like, he paid him. Yeah, he's like, are they coming here? I'm fighting them. I don't care. They're going to have to kill me. Because he wants to start saying because I'm black and it's Black Lives Matter. Like, that shit does not fucking matter right now. He just wants to have a reason for the cops to do something. And they tased him and he pretty much pulled my stink off. My stink, like, he took off the faucet. Yes, he tried to fight with him.
And your window's broken
And
too.
my window's broken. And my door hinge is broken because he broke. And then my base, my whole nightstand, he broke that. Everything's broken. Everything's broken. And he came up.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm not sure what the purpose of this part of the video being played is, other than a narrative. I don't know what the relevance is at this point.
That'll be overruled. States Exhibits 4A and 4B has been admitted into evidence.
Judge, but we had agreed upon a certain point, and so that's what, when I didn't object, it was not objecting to the point of that period of time.
It's not there. It's at 26 minutes, 31 seconds. We agreed to 28 minutes, or I stated that's all I was going to show.
All right, but this is something I want each party to understand. States Exhibit 4A and 4B has been admitted to evidence. And this is States Exhibits, correct? That was admitted into evidence?
Yes, Judge. And just based off my word of, for the entrance of time, I said I was just going to play a portion, but I understand the whole thing's admitted.
Okay, all right, proceed.
Thank you. Starting back the video at 26 minutes, 31 seconds.
And I ran to my car.
What was he saying when he had the knife in his hand?
Nothing. He was saying, he said, "Why don't you love me?" And then I ran out to the car with my keys, and he came, and from there to here, he grabbed me like this, and he was dragging me. I'm sorry, he was dragging me until I got right here, then he threw me on the floor, and that's when my.
Was that before you called?
No, I was already waiting for them. I was like hoping they were gonna show up while he was dragging me, and nobody did anything. And then he pushed me, and then he choked me on my neck in the back of the door in the room.
Did you tell all this to the other officers?
Nobody asked me anything. This is all my information. And he was like, every time he was asking me, like, what happened, and I'm telling my story, he'd cut me off and like, okay, I'm trying to just get a time frame. Like, you're not asking me anything. I didn't have time to tell you anything.
Okay, so he dragged you by the hair,
Yes, here.
pushed you and choked you
Yes.
after you called at 10:45? Okay. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I mean, at least you could hold off on going into the apartment until CSI takes pictures on the inside.
I just want to know, like, about, like, I don't.
A fast, reliable network.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me talk to the handling officer.
Okay, and state is stopping the video at 27 minutes, 47 seconds. And I'm gonna stop sharing screen. Officer Diaz, based off what we just watched and listened to, in your opinion, did the complainant state that she was assaulted?
Yes.
How so?
She said the defendant grabbed her by the hair, pushed her and choked her. She didn't say the exact word assaulted, but she said everything else.
And was this after or before Officer Flores spoke to her?
This was after the first time Detective Flores spoke to her.
And about how long after the arrest of the defendant was the time period from talking to her?
From when I talked to her,
From the arrest or the incident with the defendant and, yes, the beginning of talking with the complainant.
maybe 10 or 15 minutes,
So it was no longer than an hour?
no longer than an hour.
And did she, in the video that we just watched, did she state anything else to you involving the defendant?
She said he wasn't letting her go to the car and he was holding a knife at one point.
That'll be sustained.
It's what it's already admitted on the video.
But him saying it, that's sustained, that's the hearsay. The video speaks for itself. And so everyone can be aware the court was able to hear everything that was being said on the video.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll continue. Officer Diaz, after you spoke to her, what was your involvement with the case?
After I spoke to her, CSI came out and take pictures of me in the apartment. I spoke to my supervisors and I spoke to Detective Flores to let him know what the complainant told me happened.
Okay, and you said someone came out to take pictures?
Correct.
What did they take pictures of?
They took pictures of me, and I don't know if they took pictures of the two detectives that were there. They took pictures of the apartment.
And so let's talk about the apartment. What did you observe? Was there, was there anything broken or what did you observe when you entered and left the apartment?
When I first entered the apartment, I didn't observe too much because we were dealing with the defendant. Once we left, saw there was the sink was broken in the kitchen from the incident. And I don't remember too much about what was inside the apartment. I think there were some clothes scattered in the bedroom.
Okay, and after all this happened, did you file a supplemental report?
Yes.
And was the defendant arrested at that point, or was he detained? Where was he?
I believe the defendant stayed in the back of the patrol car until he was taken to the magistrates.
Okay. Thank you. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Defense.
Good afternoon, Officer Diaz. So you testified just recently to the fact that you were the third to arrive at the location, correct?
Correct.
And about how long after Detective Edwards and is it Officer Flores, correct?
Detective Flores.
Detective Flores, okay. How long after the two detectives arrived at the location did you arrive?
I'd say no more than 5 minutes after they arrived.
Okay. And when you arrived, you were instructed there was no need for you to come because there wasn't an answer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so how long after that notification not to come out were you then told to go back, I guess?
Again, no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. So would you agree that it was a total of about 10 minutes that had passed by the point in which you and Detective Edwards went out there the second time?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase that?
Would you agree that it was at least 10 minutes that had passed in between when dispatch actually dispatched the call and when you actually arrived the second time? It was in excess of 10 minutes, correct?
I'd say maybe 10 minutes. I don't know exactly how much time had passed.
Okay, and that's okay. And so when you get out there approaching, or the second time, walking up to the apartment, you don't hear anything at that point, correct?
The first time I approached the apartment was the
Officer
second
Diaz.
time. Yes.
Yeah. I'm asking the second time. So which is, I
Okay.
guess the first time is really the first time you made it out there.
Right.
But I guess, and maybe I confused you. So when you approached the apartment with Detective Edwards, did you hear anything coming from the apartment?
Yes.
And was that before or after Detective Edwards knocked on the door?
That was, again, after Detective Flores and Detective Edwards knocked, they left. Detective Edwards and I came back a second time. Before Detective Edwards and I had knocked on the door, as we were approaching, that's when we could hear arguing inside the apartment.
Okay, so you hear arguing, but as far as the screaming from the female voice that you indicate on your report, is that after the knock?
I believe that was after the knock.
Okay. And you testified a little while ago that she was screaming help. Do you indicate that on your report?
No, it doesn't say help exactly on the report. It just says screaming for us to come inside.
Okay. And upon entry into the location, Mr. Scott had his hands up, correct?
I don't believe he had them up as in over his head, no.
Okay. Have you had a chance to review any of the other officers' body cams?
I've had a chance to review Detective Edwards' body cam.
Okay. And when was that?
2 months ago.
Okay. Are you comfortable in being able to testify as to everything from that video, or would you need to review it again?
I think I'd be comfortable.
Okay. And so the court, as well as all of us in here, excluding you, reviewed it already this afternoon. And so if I tell you that his hands were up, would you agree or disagree with that?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't remember his hands being up. I remember saying he wasn't going to get on the ground when we told him to get on the ground.
Okay. Now, did he ever proceed, or let me ask you this, in your report, because you'll agree with me that your report is really all we have to go off of, right? We don't have your code band, correct? Or your body camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so upon entering, you agree that the victim or she continued to scream? Was she screaming at you, screaming at my client? Who was she screaming at?
I don't remember what she was screaming at.
Okay. Do you recall a baby crying, or was the baby screaming or responding in any form?
Yeah, I could hear a baby crying.
Okay. Did you also hear the baby crying while you were outside of the apartment?
I don't remember hearing the baby cry while I was outside, no.
Okay. And when you made entry into the apartment, your report states that my client was in the kitchen standing there, correct?
Yes.
Your report doesn't indicate that my client was using any type of force towards the victim, correct?
Correct.
Your report does not indicate that my client proceeded towards you or Detective Edwards, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And your report doesn't indicate that you or Officer or Detective Edwards stated why you were even asking my client to get on the ground.
No, the report doesn't state that.
Okay. And your report doesn't state whether or not you observed anybody else in the apartment other than the victim and my client, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you're dispatched for a burglary in progress. Is it fair to say that you had no idea whether my client was also a victim?
Well, like it says on my report, it says the call notes that we received were the baby's dad trying to get into the location.
I can see that. I also have your report in front of me, but my question is, that evening or that day, you had no idea who my client was in relation to this burglary? Yes or no?
In relation to the burglary, well, the notes we received were that the baby's dad was trying to get into the location. So there's the victim and the complainant, it's male and female. He was the only male in the apartment. So when we made entry into the apartment, we were thinking, this is the only male we can see. This was the person the caller was describing.
But there wasn't any forced entry into the apartment, correct?
By me or by the defendant?
When you and the detective arrived, was there any evidence or anything to indicate a forced entry into the apartment?
There was no damage to a door, no damage to a window for us to believe that there was any force used.
Okay. And so at any point, did it click that perhaps there wasn't a burglary in progress?
That point clicked once we got the defendant in custody and we learned that he'd been invited to stay in the apartment by the victim and that the door that was being.
And I'm going to stop you right there because you mentioned something that's significant. Earlier, I asked Detective Edwards whether or not my client was being arrested, searched, or transported at the time that he allegedly resisted.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Were you arresting Mr. Scott at the time in which you entered the apartment?
He was being detained at the time.
Okay. So it's fair to say he wasn't being arrested. Is it fair to say you weren't searching him, correct?
I wasn't searching him, no.
And you weren't transporting him, correct?
Not at the time when we entered the apartment.
Okay. And he wasn't exerting any type of constraint or force upon you? And it's not indicated so in your report, correct?
He was pushing back against us while we were trying to get him into handcuffs.
And where can we find that on video?
I believe it's on Detective Edwards' video.
Okay. And if it's not?
And it's not on my video because my camera wasn't turned on.
And so what you're telling us is that we should just believe that he was, but we just can't see it.
Well, I don't know what the other detectives have in their report.
But you did agree with me that you saw Detective Edwards' video.
Yes.
Okay. And you said you were comfortable in testifying to what you saw in that video.
Yes.
Okay. And so would you agree with me that nowhere on that video do we see my client resisting or using force?
No,
You would not agree?
I would not agree.
Okay. So can you point to us where on the video you see that?
Asked and answered. Objection.
That'll be overruled. Are we, counsel, are you asking that the video be played again?
Well, I guess it depends on the officer's
the-
response, Judge. Yeah.
All right. He's saying he can point to it. The only way he's going to be able to point to it is if he sees if the video is shown again. Are you requesting that the video be shown again?
No, Judge, not at this time because he didn't answer whether he could.
All right, answer the question, please.
What was the question again?
Can you point out on Detective Edwards' video where my client was allegedly using force against you or Detective Edwards?
Judge, and I'm going to object. It's misleading. The only way he can point out is if the video's on. How is he going to point out something that's not on?
Your Honor, he just testified less than 5 minutes ago that he recalled the video and he felt comfortable testifying as to what he observed in that video.
All right, can you answer the question? Will you be able to point to on the video? That's question is either yes or no.
Yes.
The answer. All right, so he said yes, he can. Do you wish to have the video played, defense?
On that particular portion, yes, Judge, toward the end of the video.
It's not going to be a portion. It's going to be the entire video.
That's fine, Judge. I'm
Okay,
just trying to do it in
no
an
problem.
effort to save time.
No, I mean, the court, I'm here.
Would you like me to do it?
I think, let me see if it will open for me.
Okay.
And which exhibit is this? Is it 3A or 3B?
I believe it's 3B. Yes.
Up. Yeah, it won't let me play it. Just 1 second, let me do this. Let me just completely close my system. All right, there we go.
We're making an entry. Break the window. Get down on the ground.
I'm not getting on the ground. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. Tell him the truth. Get down. Tell him the truth. Man, get off of me. I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. Get off of me. Get off of me. Get off of me. I didn't say anything. Get off of me. I didn't say anything. Tell him the truth. Tell him the truth. No. No. Get down. You're not going nowhere. Christ up. I didn't say anything. Get down. It's on the ground, man. No. Do it again. You're gonna get it again.
All right, defense.
Officer Diaz, would you agree with me that the video is a little unclear as to what was occurring?
Sure.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Said sure.
Okay. And is that a yes?
I mean, it's a little unclear to see what's occurring because the cameras are so close.
Okay. And so you hear my client, or number one, you see my client with his hands up, correct?
Yeah, he didn't have his hands up when we first approached him, and as he started walking towards us, he put his hands up.
And that's not what I asked you. I said, did you see my client on the video with his hands up?
Yes.
Okay. And when you first come into the apartment, did you ask either one of the parties what was going on?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And did you tell or make known to either one of the parties why you were there?
No, I didn't.
Okay. But you would agree with me that hands up is a response typically showing that you're going to comply with your instructions of an officer?
Well, we instructed him to get on the ground and he said, I'm not getting on the ground, but he did have his hands up.
Okay. Is it fair to say that he had no idea why you were there?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained.
Based upon your report, you'll agree with me that you don't indicate that my client knew why you're there.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Judge, I'm stating in his report.
Sustained.
What the defendant?
In your report, Officer Diaz, you indicate that you told my client why you were there.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
No, it's not stated in the report, me telling the defendant why we were there.
Does it indicate that any other officer told him why you were there?
No,
Does it indicate that he used any type of force towards you or anybody else when you made entry?
no, it doesn't indicate that.
Okay. And you'll agree that he continues to say, I didn't do anything, correct?
Yes,
And upon knocking, earlier you testified that you heard a female yelling, help. But would you agree that the female was actually yelling, come in?
yes.
Now, have you seen, remind me again, have you seen any other officers' videos?
I think I saw Detective Flores' video.
Okay. And on Detective Flores' video, do you recall when he enters the apartment and my client is on the ground?
Yes,
Okay. And if it's alleged that my client was not complying with instruction, at what point did he begin complying with instruction?
maybe once we got him outside.
Is that how you're trained to determine whether the individual's complying or not?
What's the question again?
So with your training,
Mhm.
how do you know that force is no longer needed?
When there's no force against us and the defendant or suspect begins to comply with commands or answer questions.
I'm sorry, hold on. Repeat that.
Repeat what you said, please, and could you keep your voice raised so that the court reporter can hear?
Sure, sorry. So we're trained to recognize when a person. I'm sorry. Can you ask the question again?
How are you trained to determine when force is not needed? When force is not needed?
Yes, we stop using force once the suspect is in custody or handcuffed.
Okay. And if an individual has his hands up, is he complying? And it's a yes or no question.
I'd say no.
Okay. And if an individual is on the ground, is he complying?
It depends.
If an individual is on the ground with two officers on top of him, is he complying?
If his instructions were to get on the ground and place his hands behind his back, then I guess you could say he's complying, but if his hands are up when he's being instructed to get on the ground, I wouldn't say it's complying.
Well, officer, would you agree with me that just looking at the video that we looked at and in your experience, when you and Detective Edwards entered the location, there was a lot going on?
Yes,
There was a lot of yelling and possibly yelling from the baby.
yes,
Okay. And there were multiple commands from you and the other officer, correct?
correct.
And so is it fair to say that if you or Detective Edwards can only process so many things in that moment, then perhaps the defendant also can only process so many things?
Yes, that's true.
And so if somebody has their hands up in a situation like that in response to your initial forced entry into the apartment, it's fair to say that he's likely going to comply with your instructions.
Well, the instructions were to get on the ground, and he did
And let
have
me
his
stop
hands
right
up,
there.
but he responded, "I'm not getting on the ground."
Okay, I understand that. We all heard that 3 times already. But what I'm asking you is that upon entering, if his hands are up, was there anything to indicate that he was going to charge towards you or use any type of force against you?
Indicating besides walking toward us, no.
Okay. Was there anything to indicate that he was committing an offense at the time you entered the apartment?
All we knew at the time when we were entering the apartment were the notes on the key card saying he was trying to get into the location.
Okay. And upon entering the location, did you or Detective Edwards observe him committing a criminal offense?
Well, we observed him in the apartment, and the call was for a burglary in progress, saying he was trying to get into the location. So see him in
Okay.
the location, and that's the offense we thought had occurred or was occurring, was that he had broken into the location.
Okay. And so what you just said is that you thought, and so upon entering the location, your report indicates he was standing there, correct?
Right.
Nothing in your report indicates he was assaulting anybody, correct?
Correct.
Nothing on your report indicates he was taking possession of any belongings that were not his, correct?
Correct.
And as we already went over, nothing indicated a forced entry into the apartment.
Correct.
Nothing indicated any type of injury to either individual visibly, correct? Okay. Now, after questioning what we saw earlier of the alleged victim or complainant, is a story or the elaboration that she told you the same as what she told Detective Flores?
No.
And did you talk to her first or Detective Flores?
Detective Flores talked to her.
Okay. And at any point after when you talked to her, were there any injuries on the complainant?
Not that I remember. Oh, I'm sorry, to the complainant?
Correct.
All right. Yeah, no, sorry. No, not that I remember.
And still throughout the entire time of your encounter with my client, he continued to tell you and the other detective that he did not do anything, correct?
I don't think I spoke to him once he was in the back of the patrol car.
Does your report indicate that towards the end? It indicates he said he did not do anything, correct? I didn't hear that answer. Did you say something?
No, I'm sorry. I've got a different report here in front of me.
What report do you have?
I've got my use of force report.
So explain to us, what is the use of force report?
Use of force report is the report that we do for the department whenever force is used against somebody.
And would you agree that the entire purpose of that report is to be able to detail whether or not that force was justified?
Yes.
Okay. And would you agree that that report you know what, I'll retract that, well, the beginning of that question. And so are you looking at the correct report now?
I am.
Okay. And so toward the end, you agree that your report says that he continued to maintain that he did not do anything, correct?
Oh, correct.
Okay. Now, did you, or to your knowledge, anybody else ever ask my client what had occurred?
Well, going back on my last answer to your last question, I put in the report he was told officers to let him go and he didn't do anything, but that was as we were walking him to the car. Once we got him in the car, I didn't talk to him anymore.
Okay.
But to answer this question, to my knowledge, I didn't ask him what had happened.
Okay. And he was evaluated by the EMS, correct?
Correct.
Was he evaluated because he was tased or for additional injuries?
Because he was tased.
Okay. And do you recall throughout the time of this incident when my client was still inside and on the ground, do you recall the complainant yelling and cursing at my client?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you ever recall Detective Edwards instructing her to essentially be quiet or to stop antagonizing my client?
I believe when the defendant was on the ground, I believe we had the complainant go to a different part of the apartment so she wasn't yelling at the complainant.
And so you had her go to a different part because she was yelling at the complainant, which is why you relocated her?
Correct.
And did she ever indicate to you why she did not call the police herself or answer the initial knock?
She did call the police herself.
But the dispatched call was not from her call, correct?
I don't remember if there was a 911 hang up for this apartment before the burglary in progress call came out, but she said she called 911 and put the phone on mute and threw the phone under the bed.
I'm
So I know
sorry,
that's
I
what-
didn't catch that.
All right, so this is the thing. The court reporter cannot hear. So if everybody will speak as loud as you speak when you're outside, because what is happening is I'm looking at the screen and half of the testimony is not being taken because she cannot hear. And if you all could please not talk over each other. She can only take one person at a time. I only have one court reporter taking down the record. Because what's going to end up happening when you get that record, there's going to be a bunch of things that says inaudible. So if everybody can't speak up, if everybody can't speak at one time, we're going to end up doing this in the courtroom, and everybody will need to be here in the courtroom. So the court reporter for the 187 District Court, I don't want her to have to say another time that she can't hear people talking. Everyone, quit letting your voice trail off down to the end. Keep it right here. Don't bring it down. Ask your next question, please.
Officer Diaz, you stated that you're not sure whether there was a dropped call or a hang up, correct?
Correct.
You're basing the conclusion that complainant called 911 upon her statement, correct?
Correct.
And so it's fair to say that we don't know whether she really called 911 herself, correct?
I don't know if she called 911 herself.
Okay.
That's just what she told me.
And in your experience, and let me go back. At the point in time, you were with SAPD for 2 years or less?
Less than 2 years.
Okay. So you were still fairly new, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, earlier, Detective Edwards testified to something, and so I want to ask you, when you hear the term passively resisting or a passive resist, what does that mean?
It means somebody's not complying with commands. They're not punching or kicking us, but they're pulling away and not complying.
Okay. So you said not punching or kicking?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fair to say that that means not using any type of force, correct?
I would say no.
Okay. So does passively resisting, if it's not using force by punching or kicking, I'm kind of confused. Is there force being used, or is it just, an unintentional positioning of the body? Or perhaps, if there's a stumble, it makes it more difficult for everybody to stay upright. I mean, what does that mean?
What does force without punching or kicking mean?
Correct, because you referred to punching and kicking.
Yeah, sorry. Those were two examples. Force could be pushing against us or throwing objects.
Okay. So you'll agree with me that my client was not pushing against you. It's not indicated in your report, and it's not shown on the video, or I should say not clear on the video, right?
I mean, at one point of the video, when the defendant was kind of in a corner against the wall and the table, I mean, I believed on the video it showed him pushing against Detective Edwards.
Okay. And nothing was thrown at you, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's fair to say that would you say it's fair to say that the defendant did not use any force?
I would not say that's fair.
Okay. Is it fair to say that the force that you saw may not necessarily be on, well, the force that you saw is not on your body cam, correct?
Correct.
And the force that you saw is hard to make out in Detective Edwards' video because of the movement, correct?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to make out, but I believe it's there on the video.
Okay. And through the rest of the process, you said that you were with him when he was put behind the, I guess, in the backseat of the vehicle, yes?
I was with him when we were taking him outside to the vehicle. Once he
Okay.
was in the back seat, I wasn't with him very much.
Okay. And when you were taking him outside to the vehicle, at that point, was your video turned on?
Once we got him inside the vehicle, that's when I realized my camera was off and I turned it on, yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that other officers, the body cam of other officers that you've seen will reflect that my client was complying and walking out to the vehicle?
Yes.
No further questions at this time, Judge.
All right, State, call your next witness.
It calls Officer Flores, or Detective Flores.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
For the state, he's excused.
Excuse, Judge.
All right, you're excused, Officer Diaz.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right, State, and you, your witness is in breakout room number 2. Defense, any objection to the state going to breakout room number 2 to remove the witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Garcia, if you could remove that witness, please. All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you could lower your hand and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Detective Jose Flores.
All right, state.
Today's
Detective
date-
Flores,
Yes.
where do you currently work?
I work for the San Antonio Police Department, and I currently work at the Peru substation.
And how long have you worked for SAPD?
Coming up on 10 years in May.
And as a detective, what are your current duties?
My current duties is to follow up with family violence cases, crime scene investigations, narcotics.
And was that what you were doing on the date of November 23rd, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Were you on duty that night?
Yes, sir.
And were you involved in an incident involving a male named Cameron Scott?
Yes.
Is he on the Zoom screen today?
Let me see. Yes,
Can you please identify him by an article of clothing?
he has a face mask and a green Nike shirt.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant. Detective Flores, let's go step by step how you were involved in this case. Were you the primary officer or detective in this case?
No, at first I was, and then I ended up leaving the location, and then two other officers became the primaries.
Okay, by primary, I may be using the wrong term, but did you write the report in this case?
Oh, yes.
Was it a supplemental report?
No, it was the arrest report.
So when were you first made aware of this incident?
At first we received calls for family violence, someone needing help. Then we had gone, me and Detective Edwards had gone to the location and tried to make contact with the person calling at that apartment. We were not able to, so I left the location, and Officer Edwards and Officer Diaz remained at the location. And then after that, I was called to return back to the location after they had to make entry when they heard somebody calling for help.
And where was this location at?
It was an apartment complex off Woodstone.
Is that in Bexar County?
Yes, sir.
And when you made that second appearance to the apartment, what did you observe? What happened?
I made the second appearance for officers in trouble. There was a struggle, and upon entering, I can
Objection,
see.
Your Honor, hearsay.
Overrule.
Upon entering, I see Detective Edwards and Officer Diaz struggling with a suspect on the kitchen floor, and the suspect was yelling and shouting at police and at the victim.
And was that suspect the defendant you identified?
Yes.
And at this time, did you have an active body-worn camera on?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I share my screen?
Yes, and I actually believe I can use my screen because I know there are some issues on your end.
Okay.
So which exhibit are you seeking to show?
So this is the last two exhibits broke up in A and B, State's Exhibit 5A and State's Exhibit 5B.
Well, here's the question. Has the defense seen State's Exhibit 5A and 5B?
They've had it. I don't know if they've seen it.
Yes, Your Honor, no objections.
All right, then State's Exhibits 5A and 5B, are you offering those into evidence, State?
Yes, Your Honor.
And defense, you have no objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then State's Exhibits 5A and 5B are admitted. Which are you seeking to play, State?
State's Exhibit 5A, Your Honor.
Open that, just give me a moment. Just one moment. All right, is everyone able to see and hear?
Yes.
Yes.
State, does it need to be fast forwarded?
No, Your Honor, it should be any second now.
Being like that in front of your daughter. Close it. I'm gonna finish. I'm done with you. I haven't did anything. Yes, you did. You know what you did. Think about it when you're behind bars. I'm done with you. Don't come back here. Acting like that, letting her see this. You should be ashamed as a fucking man. You don't have anything. Really? That's your plan. That's your plan. Hey, get up there. I gave my best. Get up.
Excuse me, just one moment. We're going to pause. All right, defense.
Yes, Judge.
I don't know why your witness, the same one who was smoking cigarettes and laying on the bed, keeps popping into this room.
Judge, I've not been able to even talk to her this afternoon, but if you'd like me to admonish her, I can go and do that.
No, I've already admonished her several times. I don't know what she does not understand about you are to remain in a breakout room.
Judge, I don't, did she already
Yes,
leave?
she's here and she keeps leaving a room to come in and listen to evidence. And I don't know what she does not understand about the fact that she's to remain in a breakout room. And the person who keeps coming into this room is your aunt. And so K51, the aunt, you had better go back to breakout room number 4. And if you leave that room again, I will hear whatever motions the state wants to make in regards to your not testifying.
Stop yelling at her. Hey, get the fuck off of me. Ooh, I can't wait to tell my cousin. Oh, go tell everybody. Ooh. Tell everybody. I didn't even do anything. I never even touched you. Felicia, for real? Okay. Ooh. Hey, man, go ahead and get up, man. Ready? I can't. What do you mean you can't? Yeah, I can't even know for that. That thing. Can't grab my phone? No, man. Can't grab my phone? Man. Right here, it's right here. Get up. It's right there. I can't. Wait a minute. Hold on. What's wrong with your leg? No. Huh? No. Why? Y'all chase me. You know I didn't do nothing. No, fuck you. See? How y'all know how to talk to me like that? Push me. I didn't push you. I didn't even punch me. Hey. Ooh. You broke everything in here. At least I just kicked out of the door because you was hiding my daughter. You want to change when the cops know? At least I meant to the I was here. Why are you going to do this in front of my daughter? Man, I swear to God, I didn't do nothing to her. Look at our records, man. What you thinking, dude? I can't. What do you mean you can't? Am I going to have to carry you out of here? Because I'll carry you. I'm going to get up. Help me up. I'll carry you. Help me up. Okay. Felicia, you know I ain't do nothing to you. Really, Felicia?
Really.
You know I ain't do nothing to you. Really? You know I ain't do nothing to you. Hey, let me go, cuz. What, for real? How? How? Nigga, you didn't even care about me on my mom's grave. Nigga, you didn't even care about me on my mom's grave. Bitch, can I get my phone? Get my phone from her. Please. Man, y'all wrong, man. Y'all didn't even hear my side of the story. Man, let me fucking go. Man, don't be slamming me up against no fucking car.
You slammed me, push you right there.
Quit trying to be badass.
Come on.
Badass? Don't
Let's do
slam
it.
me.
You already did it.
Don't slam me, cuz. Man, let me fucking go, cuz. Like, for real.
Let you go.
Man, get my fucking phone. I don't got nothing on me. Like, what the fuck? Shut up. Hey, you shut up, bitch.
Come on.
Fuck out of here, cuz.
We have to search you.
Nigga, you ain't gotta search me. I ain't got shit on me, cuz. Get the fuck off of me. Get the fuck off of me, cuz. Like, for real. Get the fuck off of me. I ain't got shit on me, cuz. Yeah.
Way back to my car.
Y'all some whole ass cops, cuz.
All right, get in. Stop pushing back, dude.
Nigga, y'all got my head right here, cuz. Let me get duck in. Man, get the fuck off of me, bitch.
Get in.
Nigga, if you had that bet, I'll beat your ass.
Get in the car.
Nigga, let me go.
Get in. Get in the car. Get in there.
Y'all don't even hear what a nigga gotta say.
Get in. Calm down. We'll talk to you.
Nigga, I'm calm.
Calm down.
Shit. Give my fucking keys from her, my car keys. She got my shit.
Get in. Get in the car.
Let me go, cuz. The fuck off of me. Really, cuz?
Who's that? He was in there when we came back. I knocked on the neighbors. I guess she did. I heard her screaming.
Got tase him or?
We dry stone. I told him to dry stone him.
I guess she let him in or?
Huh?
Because when we came in, there was no signs of burglary.
Yeah, no, she
Hold on.
I don't know why she didn't yell at when we
I thought you heard my sisters when we came in, or when we came back the second time, and then she was screaming when we were knocking on the door. She screamed for us to come in.
Oh, okay. Police! Police! We want to talk real quick.
Yes, okay.
There's a glass all over the place. Are you okay?
I don't know, my knee hurt. You can come in.
You need EMS?
No, I don't.
What about your baby?
She's good. She just shouldn't have seen that. Let me get my shoes on.
Where's his phone at?
Where is it? Where did he leave it at?
Oh, maybe in the house.
335 starts the wagon. He's already starting to kick the window out.
Can you put how's it going, baby?
No damage yet, though.
I'm gonna put that.
Right, I copy. Wagon's around to another location here. Let me, you have to wait on that one.
Hey, who let him in?
He was here. He was here for the night. Let him come for the weekend to spend Christmas with us or whatever. And then I don't know. No, I text my friend. I was like, call the cops because he was like totally mean. He broke the door and everything. He was coming in with the knife. So I texted her. I said, call my friend. And I texted my friend. I said, call.
Y'all live here?
No, I live here.
You welcome in for the holidays.
Yes, and his back's right by the door. Like he doesn't live here. And so I told her. I said, text the call the cops and tell him to come because he's
Y'all are
acting
chilling.
crazy.
Today y'all are hanging out.
He was on the phone and I said, do you want to go talk in the room? And he's like, you're disrespectful and this and that. And I said, okay.
What's your name is?
Huh? Felicia.
Hi, Felicia. So, let me get this straight. He's here for like the week, the holidays, or whatever.
Yes.
Y'all been good all day today.
Today we've been arguing all day.
Back and
Yeah.
forth. Y'all been good. We gotta need police. Okay?
Yeah.
So then, at what point did you decide that you were gonna call police?
When they broke the door to get in the room with the knife. And he said, oh, I'm gonna make it worth it because you're calling the cops. And I said, okay, so he took off his shirt and he started getting in my face. He pushed me on my shoulder and I grabbed my keys and I ran to the car. He left from here, he ran to the car and he pulled me back by my hair and he threw me on the floor by my hair. He threw me like that. And that's what I told him.
He's over here.
4209, if you need the other way, you might want to go ahead and call it before you get started.
Into discussion, and you go to your room?
Yes.
Was there any issues with contact before that?
Look, come here. This is the issue. I'm standing by the door. I'm trying to put her to sleep. Look at this.
Okay.
All broken.
So y'all been arguing all day.
He comes in, breaks everything. What harm
Well, EMS over there, negative.
So you want, I need like a timeline. I'm helping you out. You're arguing all day. He's over there. You have your daughter with you. You come in the room, I guess, to get away? Or?
Yes, to get away, because I'm trying to not be touched by him, because that's what he does when he's mad.
And y'all are still arguing?
No, I closed the door, and he's trying to get in. And I said, just leave, go over there. And he said, you're childish, this and that. And then he forced his way in here just to yell in my face.
So he broke the door, and
yes.
then y'all started arguing here?
Yes.
And then?
Then he came to me, and when he gets like that, I don't say nothing, because I don't want to provoke him. So I stay quiet.
Is he on drugs or what?
No, he has anger issues. Do you see how he acts when he's mad?
Intoxicated.
We were having a drink, but he just had one drink. And that's one drink he had. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he just gets, when he calls his cousin, and when he starts talking to his cousin, he starts getting, like, they start talking about their family issues. That gets him mad. So that's why I told him, I said, if you're going to act like this, you don't need to spend the holidays with me. You can leave.
So he comes in, and then?
And he comes and he starts yelling. And I said, you need to get away because I don't need to see you like that. Well, that's my daughter, blah, blah. He's yelling in my face and she's crying. And I said, you need to go. You need to leave. And I said, I'm going to call the cops. Oh, you're trying to put me in jail? Okay, you're going to put me in jail. I'm going to make it worse. So he comes, does all this stuff. I said, no, I mean, this is my shit. I paid for it.
All this stuff?
All of this is not,
okay.
This is the same thing he's done. That's why he has a record, because I think he changed and I want to give him a chance. But that's why I said, no, I'm not doing this no more, because now we have a kid. It's different now. I can't put up with this. This is everything that I pay for. He put no money in it, and it's my stuff messed up. Like, like, I'm trying to give him a chance, but I'm wasting my time with somebody who acts like that. Like, you're a grown-ass man, 30.
How many times has he done this before?
Look at his record. 2017, and every time he's like, oh, I'm different, I'm not gonna do this, but now when the cops are caught, oh, I'm gonna make it worth my while. He said, if I go to jail and look, I swear to God, sir, I stood right here when y'all were knocking. He told me, if I go to jail, when I get out, I'm gonna kill you. I said, oh, so you're threatening me? I'm gonna die? He said, I'm gonna kill you.
We knocked, and we didn't even hear anything.
Because I'm telling him, I'm like,
and we tried calling you back too.
No, my friend, and I told her, I was like, come in, and he threw me in here, and he closed the door.
Why would you text your friend and not police?
How can I text the police?
Will you text your friend?
Because he breaks my phone I have 3 phones in there that are broken over the years, because if he sees my phone when we're arguing, the first thing he's gonna do is break it. So I have to tell her, call the cops right now. This is my apartment number. And she did that. And that's why I told her, the cops didn't come, and I texted her again. I said, keep calling because they're not coming. And finally, when I saw the cops coming, as soon as I saw the cop walk to the door, I came out the door. He was sitting right there. He said, did you call the cop? He was like this. Did you call the cops? It took 3 of y'all to take him down. What am I gonna do then? I can't, and I had the scissors. I'm not gonna lie. I stood right here, and I was like this. I said, move out of my way. And I didn't want to do that, but this is the only thing I felt, and I knew this was He had the door closed, and he was saying like this. And then he was like, oh, I'm gonna call my cousin. I'm gonna have people on you and all this stuff. I said, I don't care. It's not about, if I feel unsafe in my own house, like, what the hell? And you're letting her see all of this? Like, I can't do that no more.
Let me get you
After I opened, I said, let me out the door, because she woke up. She was asleep. So then I came over right here, and I went to the couch, and I was saying, come in. Nobody was standing there until y'all started knocking. And then he said, Felicia, tell him I didn't do anything. Tell him I didn't do anything.
Where was he standing at?
Right here. Like this. I was right here. And I said, tell him I didn't do anything. And I said, come in. I don't know if y'all heard that. I was like, come in. And he's like, Felicia, tell him the truth. I didn't do nothing. And then y'all broke the glass. And he was like, watch, I'm gonna fight them. They're gonna have to kill me. I said, I don't care. Like, you do what you gotta do. I want you out of here. That was it.
Okay. What's your last name?
Guerra.
Guerra?
Yes. I need a fan.
What's your date of birth, Felicia?
11/18/96.
What's your phone number?
210-799-8479.
8479.
79.
What are
daughter's name?
Ivy.
Ivy what?
Scott.
What's your date of birth?
1/23/19. Is this gonna be like reported to CPS or anything?
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. Maybe, because you keep walking him in here.
No, but I mean.
No, hear me out. Okay? You know he has a history of violence. Okay? The dude's an asshole. Alright? And he hurts you and assaults you. Right? Bring your daughter and you keep walking him in here.
This was the first time since you've been born that he's done it. That's what I'm saying. Me and him weren't together. That's why he doesn't live here. That's why I let him come back because everything was dropped. He's been good. He's been going to his probation, everything. I said, you could come stay with us. And then that happened. I told he knew this. I said, the first time you do anything out of the order.
How many times has he's gone down for family violence?
In this house?
No, overall.
He passed girlfriends. Like, I don't know if he has a record. Look at his record. He has that. But I'm saying, since she's been born, this is the first time he's done something like this in here. Because I would not put up with that. I mean, before I had her, yeah, I was a stupid teenager and I did. But since she's been born, I didn't accept that.
7141, 7160, cover each other, advice on about 8 to 9 homeless individuals that are
He said he's getting to him. He said, if I go to jail, I'm going to kill you.
So the whole issue was that he wanted to go in the room and just talk to you or?
No, the whole reason was that I disrespected him because he was on the phone and I said, go to the room and talk so me and her can watch a movie. And he said, you're disrespecting me, you a bitch and all that. I said, don't call me that name in my house. If you want to talk to me, like, you need to leave because you're not going to disrespect me in my house. And he said, like, he just kept going on. That's what it was.
He's not a very cooperative guy, obviously, as you can see. Alright. Wait for me right here, okay?
You said what?
Wait for me right here. This glass right here, just so you know, just leave everything where it's at in case we have to take photographs. Okay, so just leave it like the way it is, okay? Alright, you ready for this? Huh? You and I came the first time, so you didn't yell or scream or nothing. Okay, this dude has apparently a history of family violence and being an asshole to her and a bunch of other girlfriends. So she thinks the man's changed. She lets him in for the week because it's the holiday weekend. Okay, so he's here already. Okay.
And Judge, for the interest of justice, we can stop the video right now.
Yes.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Judge, and just so you, if I may, just so you know, I will request that the rest of the video be played. So if we would like to do that now, it may be best.
State it's your direct.
We can get it over with now, Judge. It's a rather long video.
How long is this video?
I believe around an hour.
Okay.
About stuff in the past. Okay, so they start arguing, and she's like, well, I'm going to go to my room. I'm going to go to my room, and I'm going to go watch a movie with my daughter because I don't want, her to be seeing us arguing. So he goes in the room, and he wants to go in the room and continue talking shit. So when she said they were breaking in, was that he broke the door to the room. And he came inside and just continued talking shit to her. The bedroom door.
The bedroom door is breaking into the bedroom.
The bedroom door. And I was like, why didn't you call us? He's like, well, I called my friend. I texted my friend. I was like, well, you should have called us. She's like, well, I took my friend that, because if he saw me calling, he was not going to come over here. I mean, y'all were not going to come. Y'all were going to take the phone away from me. So apparently he had a knife when he broke in there. I didn't see any knife out there. He said, you better not call the cops on me. If you call the cops on me, I'm going to come back and kill you. I'm not going to go to jail. So then when we came, right, when we came, they were both standing right there. He's like, you better not call the cops. You call the cops. I mean, if you say anything or open the door, I'm going to kill you. He said, and I'm going to send these people after you, blah, blah, blah. Right? So she didn't say nothing. She's like, I heard y'all. She's like, I didn't say nothing. They both stayed. They were right here in the bedroom. Right? We left. They continued arguing, apparently. And now they're arguing in the restroom. And she has some scissors saying, hey, man, stand back. Get back. Let me get out of my way. Let me out. Right? Well, then the second time y'all came, I guess she yelled for y'all for help.
Yeah, the second time, yeah.
She yelled for help, and they're standing in the kitchen. I guess where I found them.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to jail. He's like, if they come in here, I'm going to fight them. You're going to watch. They're going to kill me because of you. He's like, they're gonna kill me. It's gonna be your fault. He's like, I'm not going to jail. But they were here already. They've been drinking Four Locos. They've been smoking, and I don't know what.
So did he even hit her tonight, or any family violence or anything?
At first, she said, she was like, yeah, he hit me, blah, blah, blah. But then when I had her story all over again, she didn't say anything about she being hit. They were just arguing the entire time.
So therefore, we have no offense then.
I will talk to her
If
again.
he's allowed to be there and
Yeah,
he
he's allowed to
didn't
be
hit
there.
her.
Yeah.
But we have
Other than threat, you know, that guy threatened her to kill her, and when we came and police arrived, he threatened to kill her. If she spoke to police, I mean, we go like the threats.
yeah, we could probably do a terrorist.
So, and he's probably like a freaking habitual. So it's probably gonna get him hands.
So no one said you wanted to get a social death report at 9800 Fredericksburg Road.
It was thrown out. He's on probation for
Maybe a violation of court order. Yeah.
it's that no contact order still active. Yeah.
So remember he was going into the second.
I was like, dude, why'd you call saying he was breaking in? He lives here. He's here. He was breaking in.
Why do you think it was on you?
Oh, because we came out here and nobody answered. They could try and call her back, but it was the friend that called police on her behalf.
He's home now.
Did we get his name or no?
Huh?
We got his name?
I don't know either.
I'll get that. I tried to find that Carmen Scott, but I didn't find it. Hey, did you get his phone?
No.
His phone?
No. The phone was still on the ground and some contract.
I just have his wallet.
Felicia.
Dude, can you check out this lot music call 5219 Treetop Drive?
We're gonna be coming in and out, so. Hey, where's his phone at? Yeah, he left it right here. Because then he's gonna say that we took it.
Huh?
Yeah, because then he's gonna say that we stole it.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
7250 is coming in for an alarm at 8110 Vanity Hill, a residential alarm.
No. No, I'm saying his phone because you heard him complaining about it.
Yeah.
That's why. Do you have his wallet or what? His ID? You know his name? Carmen?
Cam with a K. They have it in the system with C.
See? See what?
Cameron.
I
C-A-M.
put insecure in there, sir.
Cameron.
You see where they're
Kevin?
at?
Cameron.
Mhm.
With the C in the
crap.
system with the K. That's his on his birth certificate.
Here's his birth.
10-10-82.
Alright. Well, that's his property, so whatever you want to do with it, we're not taking it. Okay, we'll probably, you want to take photographs?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take pictures of what happened. Okay?
Yeah.
And then hang on for a little bit. We're going to call some detectives. Let's see, we're going to go check his history out.
Yeah.
Probably have to call some detectives. Let's see what they're going to tell us how we're going to handle this.
Okay.
Alright? What's up?
I don't know. What about this? Like, what I told the office, like that.
Yeah,
Give
you're
them
going to have
your.
to contact the manager. You know?
Okay.
You should get it as it is because we might have to support that. Okay? Hang in here. You want to put your daughter to sleep?
Yeah.
I'll just knock.
Yeah, dude, just don't even. You don't even have to knock. Don't close the door because it makes a noise. It'll
Okay.
Good.
So, are you right? He's been staying here.
7230 on 93 outside
Yeah, he
by
kind
the
of told me
truck.
off and on, coming and going. I suppose I got a no contact order of some sort. I guess there's been some protective orders in the past, but he said the most current one is just a no contact order or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, she let him in. It wasn't a burglary. He was already here. Okay. They let him in for the holidays. They were hanging out, drinking Four Locos, smoking, and then they were arguing.
7370 crossover and assist 7250 on the residential
I'm
alarm.
argue with you in front of their daughter. They were here in the living room, so she went to their room. When she went to the room, she opened the door, don't disrespect me like that. You don't talk to me that way. Alright, so when she texted her friend, that's why we couldn't get a call back.
Only one time coming up for disturbance on music at 3501 Penal.
To the bedroom door. According to her, he had a knife. I didn't see no knife. He breaks the door in. He goes inside. They continue arguing. He breaks the lamp. They continue arguing, and then I guess they heard us coming. That's how they were here, and we were knocking. He told her, "Don't say anything, or don't open the door for the police. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna get people after you, to come and get you." So we're not no answer. We didn't hear anything. So when we left, we went into the restroom, and then they started arguing in there. And then same thing. He closed the door to the restroom, and they're in the restroom. And she has some scissors, and he's like, "Hey, get out of my way. Leave me alone." And he's not letting her out. Then he finally lets her out, and then they're arguing right here in the dining room where I was talking to her. And then that's when they came back again, and they knocked.
Did they get a second call, or they just?
They came back.
They just.
Yeah,
just
we were leaving. Yeah, we were already leaving, and I guess Edwards decided to just come back.
Okay.
And when he came back, they knocked. She yelled, "Help!"
Okay.
And
That's your excellent just to go ahead.
And then that's when he's like, "If I gotta go back to jail, I'm not going back to jail. I'm gonna fight him. You're gonna watch me. I'm gonna die. You're gonna watch me kill him. Then kill me. I'm not going back to jail. I'm gonna fight him." So when they went in, and I got here when they already had him on the ground.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened.
Okay.
But I'll run him and see what his history's like, and it'll probably go down for like, I don't know, on his threats or something.
Yeah, we'll see how that. I was talking to him, his back was starting to hurt him. So it's an old injury. He got shot because of the tasing. It kind of triggered it, he said. So we're gonna have the investors come check him out.
Okay. And then I'll you want me to handle it? I think there's CSI's here. I don't know what they're here for, but if you want me to handle it, I can handle it. Or I'll write it up. It doesn't matter. Okay.
Just in person again.
Is your voice on?
I got anything, sir? You can resend it.
Yeah, I was just asking if you could tell us the extra channel. They're high there, a lot of state.
In regards to that, my supervisors, they have sent a message advising it's not expeditable. We can send units.
Now we got a long report to do. Now we got a long report to do. A long report.
They're calling from out of state. They're advising to just.
I got your phone, man. Who's gonna keep it? I don't know where those keys are at. You didn't have
in the car. They're in the house.
I don't know about that, man.
The keys in the house. The car's in my name. Y'all can check in the glove box. It's in my name. So y'all can get my keys from her?
I'll go in there and ask her in a little bit.
Wow, I never even hit her, sir, one time.
I know you didn't.
Huh?
I know you didn't.
So why would I'm making a report?
Cause dude, look, you acting like an asshole.
Y'all didn't even have to. Y'all didn't even have to.
You should just talk to us.
Man, y'all didn't even have to kick in the door. I would have talked to y'all.
We came
And
flying.
I never hit her once. Oh my God, man, this is crazy. I'm getting in trouble for this for no reason.
Brandywine. Who'd you live with there on Brandywine?
Huh?
When was the last time you lived there on Brandywine?
That was 2017. That was the first time I got an assault against her. I haven't hit her ever since then. I'm not stupid, man. Like, are y'all crazy? Like, why y'all believe females?
I just told you, Cameron. I know you didn't hit her.
I didn't.
I know you didn't. I'm
So
telling
why
you right
am I in
now.
the car?
Because the way you were acting, dude, you should just talk to us.
I
think you're resisting.
Oh, man.
Come on, dude, man. We come here to talk to you like peaceful, dude. You think we want to do all this?
No, man, but I mean, when I didn't do nothing, of course I'm not crazy.
You didn't even give him a chance.
I did. I was trying to stop her from opening the door because I know I didn't do nothing. So I'm going to jail.
Yep. I'm gonna lie to you for that. At least for resisting.
Huh?
At least for resisting.
For resisting?
Yep.
Oh, come on, man. Y'all gonna do me better than that, man. I didn't do nothing, man. I didn't do nothing, man. I swear I didn't do nothing. I didn't even hit her. Man, can I see my daughter?
Uh-uh.
Huh?
No.
Come on, man. I didn't do anything, man. sir.
You got EMS coming over here checking you out, dude.
Huh?
We have EMS coming out here to check you out.
So I'm going for an assault.
You're really going down for resisting. I ain't gonna lie to you.
But I didn't even assault her.
No, you resisted police.
Oh.
What do you think all that show you put on? What do you think it was nothing or it didn't happen or what?
I didn't do nothing though.
Well, that's what you should have opened the door and you should have explained to us your side story like a grown man. But you want to play games, so then look at what we got to do.
I didn't even do nothing.
Where you grew up at, dude?
Here.
Where at? What part of town? East side. What part?
East Commerce.
Commerce in Houston. Did you go to school at Fox Tech or what?
Huh?
You went to school at Fox Tech?
No, Sam Houston. But I graduated from Roosevelt.
Oh, all right. Hold on, man. He has like 8 family violence cases, but only one of them, they were all dismissed, and then he only has one assault family violence second. He got probation, and then he's on bond for an assault family violence second.
Okay, so call Night City and see if they want statements from anybody else there. Because he's already on his second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
What?
Yeah.
We're gonna encode it, dude. Oh, you're right, dude.
He used to force you in code, huh? Oh, yeah. Let's see if he's, well, our client. If not, we're excited he's on phone. Alright. Unless you guys want to do it.
Huh?
Y'all want him on you?
Nah,
I'll
that's
that's a whole different ballgame, you know what I'm saying?
Cameron.
Hey, Cameron.
EMS gonna come check you out, dude. Don't act like the way you were acting with us. Alright. You can be good.
Alright. Yes. You got it? Yes. What's going on today?
Hello? Hey, man. This is notice 7236. Yes, ma'am. I don't even gonna pull up my key card. We're over here on Woodstone.
Copy, gonna be located at 8843 Grove. What do you copy?
Yeah, it was not a burglary. The female, she lives here. She has a on-and-off relationship with her boyfriend, who has a huge history of family violence. And she thinks, like, I guess he changed this week for the holidays, so she lets him in. So they've been here drinking Four Locos, smoking some cigarettes, and then they started arguing in the living room about some things in the past. She's like, I'm not gonna argue with you in front of our daughter. She goes to the bedroom. He's like, you don't talk to me like that, disrespect me. So he goes to the bedroom door, which is locked because she closed it. He's knocking on the door, and he's like pushing the door, trying to push the door open. And that's where the burglary thing came in, because she texted her friend saying, hey, he's breaking in, call the cops. No. So then he breaks the door in, and then he comes into the bedroom and continues talking shit to her about yesterday issues in the past, and she disrespected him like that for not talking to him. And he broke a lamp, and then that's when we arrived. When we arrived, he told her, the cops better not be here for me, and you say anything, you better keep hush, you say anything, I'm about to kill you. Don't say nothing. So we arrived, we knocked, announced ourselves as police. Nothing. We tried doing the callback. No answer because he was to the friend. So we're gonna leave already, and the other officer that's out here, Edwards, he decided to come back. Well, they noticed that we left, so then they go into the restroom now. Now they're arguing in the restroom with the closed door. So he's like, leave me alone. She grabbed a pair of scissors and was like, leave me alone, back off of me, so on and so forth. So they walk into the dining room, and by this time the officers had doubled back, came back, and the officers, by this time they're walking back to the apartment a second time. Oh, because we came out here and we knocked and nobody answered, and we tried doing callbacks and dispatch tried to do callbacks and try to get a contact of them. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we'll just go back one more time because their supervisor got involved. So now they're arguing in the dining room, and when they're arguing in the dining room, she yelled out, help! And then that's when the officers made forced entry, and he told her, if they come in here, they're gonna arrest me, because I'm not going down, I'm gonna fight them, you're gonna watch them kill me, I'm gonna die, it's gonna be your fault. So the officers went in, and he's being an asshole, he's drunk, and we tried to restrain him, the fight's on, we threw him down to the floor, we dry stunned him, and then we put him in handcuffs. Now, is he injured, Edwards?
He's stating his back hurts from the table.
He got shot like a few years ago, and because he was dry stunned, he's claiming that his back hurts.
All right, can I see defense and state in a breakout room, please? If I could see you all in breakout room number 1. Brenda and Norman, can I see you both in a breakout room? Number
Yes, ma'am.
2, please.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I can't go.
Courtroom, can you go to breakout room number 2, please? I'm sorry, breakout room number 1.
Yes, Judge.
Joe Ray, there's just one other item I was gonna ask you about, if I can see you in the breakout room again.
Okay, if you guys will go back to breakout room number 1, please.
Judge, I was able to confer with my client. I don't know if you want to go back on the record or.
Sure, what are we doing?
So based upon what we've discussed in the breakout room, we would like to go ahead and I guess proceed with what the court is inclined to do at this point.
We're going to rest at this point and close our case, Judge.
Correct. But to ask the court to hear possibly somewhat of a brief closing argument as to the actual terms of that.
In terms of what?
The extension or not an extension and all of that. Of continuing him on the.
You can, the state is closing. Is that correct, state?
That's correct, Judge.
All right, defense, are you resting?
Yes, Judge.
And do you close?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Then the court is finding violations of conditions 1, 1, and 17 true. The court will deny the motion. Does anyone want to speak with regards to conditions or what you are asking from the court?
Yes, Judge.
All right, state, what are you requesting?
Your Honor, at this point, we're leaving it up to this discretion of the court. They are found true. It was denied. So we asked for an extension based on what you saw and heard. We leave those conditions up to the court.
All right, defense, what are you requesting?
Judge, an extension of 6 months with no harmful or injurious contacts on this current case. And the reason why is because my client has reiterated the fact that he has joint custody of his child. And although what we've seen today probably leads the court to believe differently, him and the alleged complainant have continued since this incident to attempt to co-parent in whatever ways they could. In addition to that, the complainant, who I believe is still present here today, if the court wishes to hear from her, would tell the court that she needs help. She's, knows that being a single mom is difficult for her. And so she would like my client to be in their daughter's life. And because he's not been a threat to the child, and he has an interest in successfully co-parenting and has successfully completed every other condition of his probation thus far, except money situation. We're asking for the year extension at the most and no harmful or injurious contact.
Judge, if I may. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, is there anything else, defense?
Nothing further, Judge, at this time.
All right, and I've closed all the breakout rooms, so the complainant is here on the screen. Anything else from the state?
Yes, Judge. We will ask for the condition of no contact. The reason being, in this case, in the underlining case and this new case, there's been a back and forth of no contact to no harmful or injurious contact. He's on probation for a felony, and we ended up here involving the same complainant as his underlining. We believe it's not a healthy or safe relationship, and for the safety of the complainant, we ask for the no contact order.
All right, this is what the court is going to do. As previously stated, the court has found violation of conditions 1, 1, and 17 true. Court's going to deny the motion, extend your deferred adjudication for 5 years. There's to be no unsupervised contact with any minor children until completion of parenting classes with compadre y compadre. And there's to be no contact with Felicia Guerra Villarreal for the remainder of this probation. And we're going to go off the record for acceptance. Let me explain something to both of you. Y'all are two adults. The only thing that little child is going to remember about her Christmas is the foolishness that y'all brought to her door. You screaming, acting crazy. And then in what world do you think the language you were using was appropriate to those officers?
No, I know it wasn't.
Well, how would you feel if one of them called you the N-word? I've had it up to here with people using that word and thinking it's okay. And I looked at the video, and your toddler is on the bed when officers come back the second time. That poor child has no idea what's going on. I'm sure if she could pray in voice, she would be saying, God, please, why do I have these two parents? Why do I have a father who's not acting right? And for people to tell me that you haven't harmed that child, that's not true. That child has been harmed emotionally because y'all want to play house. And so I'm going to end that right now. You are not going to have any contact with Felicia Guerra Villarreal. And if y'all want to have children, y'all need to support your children. Get a job. Miss Villarreal, if you need child support from him, go and file a suit so you can get child support. But that child support is for that child. That's not for nails. It's not for hair. It's specifically for that child. I don't even want to see tears because this is a bunch of nonsense. Because your baby was crying that night because her Christmas was ruined. And then you're supposed to love her mother, but here she is on a video with her top torn and breast showing because of foolishness. The child deserves a better father than you. And you two cannot be together because obviously you can't get along. So I'm ending your relationship together. For the remainder of this deferred adjudication, there's to be no contact with her. You sending money for your child, you send it through child support. You want to have a visit with your child, if civilly it's allowed, you go through court orders. But you are not to have contact with her. That means no phone calls, no writing letters, no sending things on Valentine's Day, no presents, nothing. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
And that means also, if you want to send gifts to your child, you don't send it to her, and you don't send it to that address. You give it to whatever relative you want to give to. Maybe they can give it to your child, but it's not going through her. And I don't want to see either one of you coming back to this court asking for contact, because it's not going to happen. And I don't know if you all are together or if you still live together. I don't know if you have clothes at her house or something at her house. I don't care. You are not going back over her house today. It ends. So when you leave this courtroom, you're not going back to her house. And she's in a vehicle. If she drove you here, you better take the via or call your aunt who can't follow instructions.
I'm getting my daughter.
That's the
right
problem
now.
today. People not following instructions, people not following the law, people doing crazy nonsense, people ruining child's lives. That child is going to be forever harmed because of what happened on that day and what has happened before. And no child deserves that, and especially on Christmas. And y'all running around acting crazy. And you got officers having to come in and wrestle you to the ground because you won't get on the ground when they ask you to. And what is that necklace you have on?
It's me and my mom.
Yeah. You know what? Your mom would not be proud of you right now. And the only thing that's being taught to your, stop crying, because, you know, I'm not buying that. The only thing that's being taught to your daughter right now is that it's okay for a man to come in her house and act crazy. And here she is on the screen, on the video, which I hope you watch, saying that you came to her apartment and it's stuff that she bought and you tore it up. So what do you think your child has learned from all of this? Honestly, what do you think she learned from this? This night, this Christmas, what do you think she learned from this?
Pretty sure she was scared. I was just scared.
And that continues. So guess what? Not going to happen again, because you're not going to have contact with Felicia Guerra Villarreal. So, you know, you can forget about that. And if you have contact with her, you are looking at being found guilty, and you're looking at going to prison for 10 years. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had better not have your aunt, whomever, contacting her. And if you want visitation with your child, you need to take it to the civil side and get a ruling. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And pay your child support. And when I say child support don't mean, oh, I give my daughter what she needs. No, your child needs money so that she can live. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is there any confusion about what I'm requiring of you?
No, ma'am.
And if Miss Felicia Guerra Villarreal calls you, you better hang up. Matter of fact, you better change your number. Don't want to see you back here again. And I will say the only reason that this changed from no contact to no harmful or injurious contact is because both you, in the complainant, in your attorney, in the state, came and asked the court to do it. Not happening again. And let me say another thing to you. Before either of you gets into another relationship, each of you need therapy. You need therapy on how to be a man and keep your hands to yourself. You need therapy on have self-esteem and to know that you don't need a man to support you or your child, and don't accept less than. If you can't find somebody to treat you like a queen, then they need to be kicked to the side of the curb. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure you would like for your daughter, when she gets older, if she gets married, she would marry somebody who treats her like a queen. Right now, she's dealing with a father who's not even treating her like the princess she deserves to be treated like. With that, I'm going to send you to a breakout room. Probation is going to go over your new conditions with you. And I saw where there was a motion that was filed saying removing GPS. That's not happening.
Judge, that's actually on the new unindicted case.
Not happening. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms and I'm going to send you courtroom to breakout room number 1, if you could. And Rebecca, if you could go to 1, please. Mr. Bonk, thank you for your service.
Yes, Judge, may I be excused?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right, everyone.